Hello everyone, welcome to this Google Product Manager mock interview. In this video, we are doing behavioral questions. More specifically, we're doing cross-collaboration questions that Google commonly likes to ask. So pay attention, because with us today, we have as our candidate, a former Google Product Manager, Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
Great, thank you, Tom. Like Tom mentioned, I'm a former product manager at Google. I was a product manager and product manager interviewer for many years. Super excited to be here and help you with these questions today.
Yeah, great to have you here. And yeah, what I didn't say is Mark's actually now one of the top coaches on our platform. If you're ready, Mark, let's crack on with the first question.
All right.
How do you resolve conflicting product requirements? What or who determines which requirement takes the hit?
That's a great question, and kind of a classic question, especially at large companies like Google, right? So the question is, how do you resolve conflicting product requirements? So let me give an example. I'll actually use an example from Facebook because I worked there as well too for a while. So the situation was this: I was working on a specific product, and I was really mostly concerned about the consumer experience and making sure there was a delightful consumer experience in a particular product requirement. There was another team that was focused on growth, and growth had a different objective where they were focused on really kind of growing the product, but they really were that focused on the experience of the product, and that was really kind of my domain. And we found that there was a product feature that basically conflicted. I wanted to go left. They wanted to go right. Left drove experience, right drove growth. It was very clear that it was a conflict. And so then the question is, what do you do? And so that was the situation. So the fundamental problem is this, right? The fundamental problem is you have a product, and depending upon how you build that product and how you define the requirements, one group does better, one group does worse. So it's really a trade-off problem. And the way to solve a trade-off problem is actually through escalation. And that's actually a positive word. It's a positive word at Facebook. It's a positive word at Google. And you really kind of escalate the solution and just say, hey, look, we've got a product feature. If we focus on experience, we lack growth. If we focus on this feature this way, we get growth, but we lack experience. What do we do? And so in this particular case, the product was early enough that the provocation, the solution, if you will, was that growth wasn't really yet a problem because experience wasn't really fully understood. So I think that was my big contribution to the problem as we went through this escalation, which was, growth is something that can happen, all throughout the journey of a product. But nailing the experience and getting that right at first is really, really important. So in this case, we made a decision to focus on experience versus growth. By the way, this decision could have gone either way. Really happy with either decisions, but the reason we were able to reach that decision was by escalating, explaining the problem cogently, and then reaching a decision as a group at a higher level, which is what did the higher level wanted to do, and the higher level wanted to do look, we really want to focus on a great experience first, and we've got lots of opportunity to grow this product over time. So the impact of that contribution was that we were able to, relatively quickly solve that product feature. We were able to launch the incremental feature out the door. We were able to then improve the user experience, and then we were then able to focus on other features that then helped drive growth. So at the end of the day, it helped drive a higher quality product, which then led to subsequent growth using other mechanisms. So what are the lessons out of this? Well, for me, the thing that I learned the most was that it's very, very important to understand that conflicts happen all the time, and conflicts are just a good reason to escalate. And an escalate is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. And when you escalate and when you have a clear case, you'll make a decision, and everybody comes out of that meeting just feeling like really good, like a good decision was made. So that's how at least I solve conflicting product requirements.
Okay. What happens if you escalate your problem up a level and the problem still isn't solved?
Yeah, so that can happen too. This is kind of like the old metaphor of turtles all the way down. It's actually turtles all the way up, and that can happen, right? So you can have an issue, and you take it up a level, and maybe unleashes another level, right? You can take it up another level still, but at the end of the day, you can escalate all the way to the CEO, and at the end of the day, the CEO will make the decision. But the important thing is never be afraid to escalate things to get clarity on objective and make the right decision.
Okay, great answer. Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Mark's answer was very well structured thanks to his good use of the SIPSIL framework. As a PM, you're going to have conflicts all the time, so show the interviewer that you're comfortable with that and you have plenty of experience dealing with it. As Mark did, outline a simple process you use to come to a solution. Here, Mark recommends escalate, resolve, commit. This works really well. Having a process helps making decision-making more simple. You'll also want to show that you don't get dogmatic about things, that you're open to having your point of view challenged and can change your mind when the data suggests that you should. Okay, Mark, let's get on to question 2. How would you tackle a latent field failure or bug that is directly impacting customers and driving return rates up?
All right, great question. So this is a really common problem if you've ever shipped hardware products, or actually really any kind of software products, or really kind of any product you've ever shipped before. Despite all the magic QA you've done, you're going to ship a product and discover a bug in the field. Happens all the time. I've got a bazillion examples, but let me give you one specific example. So I used to work I worked in various hardware fields, including Google's. I probably can't give away the specific product, but let's just say I was working on a hardware problem, hardware product. We shipped the product, and despite an amazing amount of testing, we discovered a hardware defect that started creeping in about 6 months after the product was shipped. Super interesting problem because you've got millions of items being shipped, and you've got a hardware bug, and hardware bugs you can't do a recall like a car, right? You've got to figure out how to solve it. So the problem is, or the situation is, we've shipped out a product that has a defect in it, and I've shipped out a lot of units, and then what do you do, right? Because you're getting reports in the field. So that's the situation. Key problem is you're starting to see customer complaints come in. You're starting to see people notice this, and you're like, oh, great, what do we do? So one of the unique attributes of hardware is that often you can't change the hardware. In this particular case, there was a two-part problem. One is there was a downstream supply chain manufacturer that was actually delivering a part that was bad, specific chip that was causing this problem for some customers. And so as part of our root cause of solving this in terms of the solution was to basically go to the contract manufacturer and have them improve their product, change their product in a meaningful way so that we wouldn't have that, right? So that basically solved the problems for all customers moving forward. But the other problem is what do you do about all the devices that went out and actually got shipped? You can't exactly change, right? And the beautiful thing is that in hardware, a lot of the times software can come to the rescue. Not all the time, but we were able to craft a software solution to basically mask this hardware problem so that consumers wouldn't see it. So my contribution to this was, obviously, was one, working really closely with the customer support teams to understand and triage this problem and actually understand like, hey, this is sometimes you see lots of little bugs in the field, but you don't know if it's big enough, right? So my contribution was understanding that the signal that we're getting from the field was significant enough that it warranted a larger impact. My next contribution was, gathering the signal, pulling the right engineers, both hardware and software and supply chain, to basically understand the problem, quantify the problem, And, on the hardware side, obviously fixed it on the hardware side. And on the software side, we had to do just a lot of ideation and trial and error to basically mask the problem. And so my contribution there was really bringing in the teams, bringing the scale, bringing the problem, so that it became an immediate problem for everyone to solve. So what was the impact of all this? The impact of all this was that, what was originally identified as kind of a small bug actually became a large feature problem for a major hardware manufacturer. And by identifying the signal relatively early, we were able to stop the problem downstream in contract manufacturing, and then solve the problem with software. And this is one of those great little stories that you might hear in an interview, but not too much in details, and you never saw in the Wall Street Journal or something like that. So the impact was we were able to solve the problem, make our customers happy, solve the customers. And it was, obviously an expense to the firm to solve the problem, but it was solved. So what are the lessons out of this? So what I learned was that despite amazing amounts of QA, stuff breaks. Stuff can always break. And the key lesson for me was to really listen to those signals, no matter how small, really pay attention to those details. And by doing that, we're able to address the problem relatively early in the life cycle. It could have been a much larger problem. But we were able to solve it, address it, fix it, keep a level ahead about it, pull in the right resources. It was actually a pretty big solve. So important point is, listen to those customer reports, because they will tell you what is wrong with your product.
Okay, Mark, great answer. Thanks. For this type of question, the interview is looking for humility. You shipped something with a bug. It takes courage to admit that and own it. Show that you're ready to accept when things go wrong, and keep data-centric about how big or small a problem it is. Keep in mind that choosing not to solve a product bug is also a reasonable choice. In any case, make sure your answer talks about cross-functional collaboration. This question wants to know how you work across teams when unexpected problems occur. If you haven't had this experience yet, be prepared to draw for an example of where it's happened in the industry, and you can take a hypothetical approach in your answer. Question 3. Your largest customer is loudly advocating for a new feature which isn't in your prioritized roadmap. Sales, eager to please, have gone straight to engineering to see if they can drop everything and get it done. So what do you do?
Great question. It's funny, even though this is an interview question, I think this has literally happened to me as many times as I've worked for organizations. Any organization that has a sales function, this has happened to me. So this is a very, very common problem. And actually, credit to sales, right? Sales is amazing. They're out selling. They want to deliver solutions. And if they can't get the answer they want through the product manager, they're going to go to engineering. And it's a separate problem is that engineers are very eager to please, right? They want to say yes, they do. They want to solve problems. And so they actually help compound the problem a little bit by telling sales yes. But anyways, yes, I've had this problem before. Let me describe how I manage this problem. So classic problem. The specific circumstance doesn't matter too much because it happens so much. But the situation is this, right? I'm sitting at my desk one day and engineering comes to me and they're like, Mark, we want to build this feature because sales came to us and sales said this is really important, right? Happens all the time. And that's a bit of a problem, right? It's a bit of a problem because, yes, sales is right. That is a problem. And it's not prioritized in the roadmap. And so they've gone to engineering to get it prioritized. So there's a couple of, in this specific case, I'll talk about. The specific case, actually, I didn't know something was a problem. So this is just like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that was a problem. So engineering, let's do this. One, thanks for bringing this to my attention, because usually the engineering team will bring it to my attention. I said, thanks for bringing it to my attention. Please hold on that. Let me go talk to sales and let me quantify this better. And so You can't have engineers working on unprioritized things. Otherwise, it's just a nightmare, just as a general problem. But the solution, the way you approach the problem is you go back and you really kind of understand, you go back to your customer, or in this case, your customer is the consumer, but you actually have an intermediate customer, which is sales, which is basically the leading edge to your customer. And so what you do is you're just like, hey, I understand you went to engineering to help solve a problem. I want to understand that problem better. And in this case, the salesperson was quick to lay out their business case and why it was important and so forth. And you're able to apply if you're a good product manager, the product management rubrics about how big of a problem is it? How much incremental sales is it going to provide? What problem does it solve? And that basically creates your business case. So the fundamental problem here is that sales went to engineering without a business case. A business case may exist, but they went there without a business case. And so a role of product management is helping put a business case around that and prioritize it. Now, in this specific case, there actually was a real problem, or I should say a real opportunity, because it was a revenue opportunity on behalf of sales, and it was meaningful. And so the help that sales really needed was not help from engineering. What sales really needed was a little bit more thought leadership, actually also from product management, to say, like, look, here's the problem. And yes, it would give you X revenue, right? But actually with a little bit of product help, we're going to give you X plus Y revenue based on some augmentations to what you thought was a solution, based upon one customer. And so instead of a one solution for one customer, we're going to give you a solution for 9. And it's like, wow, that's a really, really big piece. So the solution in this case was to work with sales to actually augment the solution and then get that prioritized on the roadmap. Was it top on the roadmap? No. Was it towards the top of the list? Yes. So that was good. So what impact did that have? The impact that it had was, one, it was a great way to work with what I call the front end of the customer spear, which is often sales, to work with sales to create solutions that are relevant and interesting to customers to generate incremental revenue and incremental value for the company. So that's a really positive thing. The second impact that it had was continuing to engender trust within the engineering organization, knowing that, like, look, they've got 100 things to do. And the important thing for them to know is what's the most important top 10 things to do, and then stack rank what to work on them on. And that's a real value that product management brings to the table. So key lessons for me, as always, what I always learn in this case, was, initially probably a little bit dismissive of the engineering team when they brought it to me, and I just had this collective sigh. What I learned too from this was, always listening to sales. You can actually craft a bigger solution than what was originally presented. And it's also always great to forge those good relationships with engineering to make solutions that work.
Okay. And have you ever had it happen to you, but coming not from sales, from another team?
Oh, yes. Great question. Yes. So I've seen it happen with sales. I've seen it happen with account management. I've seen it happen with customer support. I've seen it happen with legal. I've seen it happen with finance. I've seen it happen with marketing. I've seen it happen, especially with CEOs, especially at startups. Startup CEOs are infamous for saying, oh, let's just go build this. So as a product manager, you're going to see this happen a lot. And actually just embrace it, because really what it is other people really wanting to engage in the product, which is a great thing. And so your job at managing it well is being a strong force of prioritization and coherence in that process.
This is a classic question, as it's a very common situation in any company. What the interview is looking for here is your ability to represent the priority of the product roadmap to engineering. That's probably the most important thing in product management. If you let other groups prioritize for you, you're no longer product manager. The other part of this answer is recognizing that when people go direct to engineering, it's because they're thirsty for solutions. Sales tends to be the most gregarious in how vocal they are. After all, it's their job to sell stuff. But you want to make sure that people come to you when they need solutions. This means being a good partner to them, be it sales, customer support, accounts, wherever. In your answer, show that you're ready to understand different teams' needs, even if you have to turn down their request. Hello, I really hope you found that useful. If you did, you can like and subscribe, and why not come visit us at IGotAnOffer.com. There you can find more videos, useful frameworks and question guides, all completely free. And you can also book expert feedback one-to-one with our coaches from Google, Meta, Amazon, etc. Thank you and good luck with your interview.